Welcome back to Payback Tales, the channel where real people share the moments that changed everything. The words cracked across the Santoro family dining hall like a gunshot, and every conversation in the room died at once. Bianca Santoro dropped a thick folder of photographs onto the polished table, her manicured hands shaking, not from fear, from triumph. "There," she said. "Your precious boss's precious wife is nothing but a hired actress." Half the family shot up out of their chairs. A couple of the capos reached instinctively for their jackets. Every pair of eyes in the room swung toward Gabriel Santoro, waiting for him to end the humiliation with a single word. Instead, he slid an arm around the curvy woman sitting beside him, pulled her a little closer, and said, almost bored, "Careful. You're insulting my wife." A dangerous kind of quiet settled over the table. Only Hazel Montgomery knew how true that accusation actually was. She and Gabriel had met less than 48 hours ago. 3 days earlier. Hazel used to believe there were only 3 real disasters in life: scorched sugar, forgetting the butter, and opening the bakery's bank account on a Monday morning. Monday had arrived. She stood behind the counter of Montgomery's bakery, a cramped little corner shop wedged between a laundromat and a flower stand, always smelling faintly of cinnamon, staring at a number on her ancient laptop that looked more like a bad joke than a bank balance. Rent was late. The oven needed a repair she couldn't afford. Her flour supplier had reminded her, for the 3rd time, that invoices don't get paid in apology muffins. Hazel sighed and glanced at the display case. Well. At least the croissants turned out pretty. The shop matched its owner, warm, bright, a little chaotic. Every shelf had a handwritten sign because Hazel thought printed labels felt cold. Kids pressed their noses to the glass over the cupcakes. Retired couples came in every Tuesday because she remembered exactly how much cinnamon Mr. Carter liked in his pie. Office workers walked in exhausted and walked out smiling because Hazel always slipped them one extra cookie, for emotional support. The bakery had never had a shortage of love. Love just didn't cover utility bills. This place had been her parents' before it was hers. Every wall held a memory, every recipe someone's laughter. She'd promised herself she'd never lose it. A bell chimed over the door. "Morning. Your blueberry scone is almost," the sentence died in her throat. The man in the doorway clearly wasn't there for breakfast. His charcoal suit probably cost more than her yearly income, and his shoes caught the bakery lights like mirrors. Everything about him said money. Everything except his face, which looked like smiling required a permit. "Miss Hazel Montgomery?" "Yes?" He handed her a card. "Adrian Wells. I'm an attorney, representing a private client." Hazel ran through her mental calendar. No unpaid tickets. No lawsuits. No forgotten taxes, unless overfeeding the neighborhood pigeons had become a crime overnight. "I have to warn you, you've caught me completely off guard," she said. "If this is about the emotional support cookies, I can explain." The corner of his mouth twitched, just barely. "I promise you, it's stranger than that." He set a sealed envelope on the counter. "I have a business proposal." "It's not a pyramid scheme, is it?" "No." "Timeshare?" "No." "Reality TV?" "No." She relaxed. "Good. I cry too easily for television." He slid the envelope closer. "Page 3, please." The first 2 pages were legal language she barely followed. Page 3 held a single number. She stared at it. Turned the page upside down. Turned it back. "There are too many zeros. The number is correct." Hazel laughed, not politely, a real, doubled-over laugh, until she had to lean on the counter. "Okay, whoever set this up deserves an award." Adrian said nothing. A full minute passed before Hazel noticed he still hadn't cracked a smile. "You're serious?" "I am." She lowered the pages slowly. What would I actually have to do? You'd accompany my client to a private family gathering, for one weekend, as his wife. Silence. The baker? Covered in flour? Correct. Pretend wife. One weekend. Correct. I'm going to need much stronger coffee. Adrian waited while she brewed an entire pot. 2 cups in, she finally asked the question she'd been avoiding. Who's your client? He hesitated just long enough for her to notice. Gabriel Santoro. The mug slipped out of her hand, landed safely in the sink. She nearly followed it. Everyone in the city knew that name. No newspaper printed it loudly, no news channel said it outright, but everyone knew. Construction firms, shipping docks, luxury hotels, political campaigns, the Santoro name turned up quietly behind all of it. People called him a business genius, a kingmaker, the most dangerous man in the city. That Gabriel Santoro? Yes. She studied Adrian like she was waiting for hidden cameras to pop out. I think your client has confused me with somebody else. Adrian pulled out another folder, photos of Hazel handing out cupcakes to kids, comforting an elderly customer, dancing at a block party in a strawberry-shaped chef's hat. You weren't picked by accident. He needed someone kind. Not polished, not experienced at pretending, genuine. He turned down every professional candidate. Hazel looked at the contract again. Enough to erase every debt. Fix the oven. Replace everything that was falling apart. Save the bakery her parents built. Every instinct told her to run. Fast. Ideally to another country. But every glance around her little shop reminded her exactly why she couldn't. What happens if I say yes? My client arrives tomorrow morning. He prefers discussing impossible decisions in person. Hazel groaned. I already don't like him. Adrian almost smiled. Nobody does. The first meeting. The next morning, Hazel stood outside a glass tower that looked like it had never once heard of flour or butter. She checked the address for the 20th time. This has to be it. It definitely doesn't look like anywhere that serves cinnamon rolls. Before she could talk herself into leaving, the doors slid open. The receptionist knew her name before she said a word. Of course he did. Men like Gabriel Santoro probably expected everything. A silent private elevator took her to the top floor, no music, no chatter, just the hum of machinery and the sinking realization she'd never stood anywhere this expensive in her life. 2 bodyguards waited when the doors opened. Neither one blinked much. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over most of the city. Gabriel stood by the glass, hands in his pockets, taller than she'd pictured, dark hair, a calm face that somehow looked both exhausted and completely alert. So, Hazel said, giving an awkward wave. Hi. I brought muffins. He blinked. Why? My grandmother taught me it's rude to meet someone empty-handed. One of the bodyguards turned away fast, shoulders shaking. Gabriel took the box after a pause. Thank you. It was probably the first unsolicited gift he'd ever received during a negotiation. I understand my attorney explained the arrangement, he said, sitting. He explained enough that I lost a full night's sleep. Reasonable. I also looked you up, she added. I imagine that was unpleasant. Very. Most people get restaurant reviews. You get conspiracy theories. Something close to a smile crossed his face. Close. He opened a folder. There are rules we need to cover. Hazel grabbed a notepad. I'm bad with names. Writing helps. My grandmother is Sophia. My uncle, Matteo. My aunt, Lucia. My cousin, Bianca, she's the one trying to expose us. Hazel circled Bianca 3 times and wrote, enemy. We met 18 months ago. Engaged 8 months later. Our first trip together was Tuscany. I've never been to Italy. You have now. Do fake vacations still count for sunscreen advice? He paused. I suppose they do. For nearly an hour he ran through family history, anniversaries, which relatives hugged and which shook hands, which topics to avoid. When he finished, Hazel closed her notebook. Bad news. I remember almost none of that. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, Gabriel laughed, quiet, short, and it seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her. I suspected as much. Good, I was worried you'd be disappointed. I adjusted my expectations 5 minutes after the muffins. The room loosened, just slightly. A stylist arrived with garment bags. Hazel stared at the dresses. I usually wear an apron. Much cheaper. She came out minutes later in an emerald green dress that fit like it had been made for her, because it had. Is that actually me? It always was, the stylist said. Gabriel, glancing up, completely forgot what he'd meant to say. She wasn't polished in the magazine sense. She looked warm. Like a room felt different with her standing in it. It suits you, he managed. Thank you. Though it really needs pockets. The stylist looked mortified. Hazel shrugged. What? Women deserve pockets. Even Gabriel couldn't argue with that one. The estate. By Friday afternoon, a line of black SUVs rolled through the gates of the Santoro estate. Hazel had her face against the window. It's enormous. 3 guest houses. I counted. Try not to sound so surprised. I am. Internally. I don't do anything internally. I've noticed. Gabriel got out first, walked around, and opened her door himself. You didn't have to do that. I know. He offered his hand anyway. She hesitated a beat before taking it. Cameras went off. Family watched from the steps. The show had started. An older woman moved toward them faster than anyone her age should manage. Gabriel. She threw her arms around him, and his usual stern expression melted. My grandmother, he said. Sophia. Sophia turned and studied Hazel head to toe. So. This is the woman who got my impossible grandson to stop working for 5 whole minutes. I've actually been trying for 2 days, Hazel said. Sophia burst out laughing. I already love her. Hazel hugged her, a real hug, not a careful one. The courtyard went quiet. Several capos exchanged looks. Nobody hugged Sophia Santoro without asking first. Sophia hugged her back, hard. You feel like family already, sweetheart. Gabriel closed his eyes for exactly 1 second. This was not the plan. It was working better than any plan could have. Introductions blurred together fast. I'm sorry, I'll probably get your name wrong, Hazel told one uncle. Then call me whatever makes you smile. Deal. Uncle Pi. Why? You look trustworthy. Nobody understood the logic. By dinner, half the family had adopted it anyway. Watching from across the room, Gabriel realized she hadn't followed one single thing he'd rehearsed with her. She wasn't performing at all. She just treated everyone like they already mattered, and somehow nobody could resist that. Saturday. Hazel woke before sunrise out of habit and wandered downstairs looking for coffee. She found, instead, a kitchen big enough to supply a hotel, copper pots, marble counters, completely untouched. Nobody actually cooks in here, she asked a sleepy housekeeper. Not unless Mrs. Sophia insists. Within minutes she had flour, butter, and eggs out. I'll just make breakfast. The smell reached the second floor before anyone rang a bell. One by one, the family wandered in half asleep to find Hazel covered in flour, humming, pulling a tray from the oven. Gabriel stopped in the doorway. What happened? Good morning. I borrowed your kitchen. You conquered it. Same thing. Sophia took a bite of a cinnamon roll and closed her eyes. My grandson has owned this house 10 years, and this is the first breakfast worth waking up for. The kitchen erupted. Gabriel rubbed his temple. I've already lost. You never had a chance, Sophia said. By lunch, Hazel knew the name of every gardener, driver, and guard on the property, not from memory, but because she kept asking until she got it right. She caught one young guard skipping lunch because he didn't want to leave his post. You'll pass out. I'm fine, ma'am. No, you're hungry. She handed him 2 sandwiches. Mr. Santoro prefers we stay ready. People perform better when they've eaten. The guard glanced nervously at Gabriel, who simply nodded. Eat. The whole security team suddenly discovered lunch was mandatory. 12 years I've worked here, one veteran muttered. Nobody's ever told us to actually take a break. From the terrace, Bianca watched every warm exchange with her stomach twisting tighter. This wasn't supposed to happen. The fake wife was supposed to slip up, embarrass him, look out of place. Instead the staff loved her. The relatives loved her. Even the guards smiled when she walked by. There has to be a crack, Bianca thought. I'll find it. That afternoon, the family threw a small garden celebration for Arturo, the groundskeeper who'd worked the estate for nearly 40 years. There was music, wine, flowers, and, Hazel noticed, no cake. I don't think anyone remembered, a maid admitted, embarrassed. Hazel looked over at Arturo, laughing politely with the guests, clearly expecting nothing at all. Somehow that made it worse. She disappeared into the kitchen without a word. 45 minutes later, the garden went quiet as Hazel walked out carrying a 3-layer strawberry shortcake covered in fresh flowers, piped by hand. Thank you, Arturo. The old man stared at it, eyes filling. For me? Birthdays shouldn't get forgotten. He couldn't speak. He just hugged her, hard. Dozens of relatives applauded, even a few hardened capos clapped along. Gabriel wasn't looking at the cake. He was looking at Hazel. Nobody told her to do this. There was no angle, no audience she needed to win over. She just noticed someone overlooked and quietly fixed it. Something in his chest tightened in a way he couldn't explain. The celebration turned lively fast. Hazel ended up teaching a group of young capos how to frost cupcakes. You genuinely cannot mess this up, she promised, 5 seconds before one enormous capo launched frosting straight across another man's suit. Dead silence. Then the whole garden lost it laughing, victim included. This, one bodyguard muttered to Gabriel, is not how I pictured today going. No, Gabriel agreed. It isn't. Later, Gabriel's uncle Lorenzo cornered Hazel near the dessert table. My wife says your apple pie beats ours. I would never confirm something so dangerous. Trade you for the recipe? Only for your family's tomato sauce. Lorenzo laughed loud enough to turn heads. Deal. Gabriel appeared almost instantly. Lorenzo. We need Hazel. For what? A pause. Photos. Not scheduled for another hour. Another pause. Family photos. Hazel bit back a smile. I'll wait, then. As they walked off, she whispered, thanks for the rescue. Rescue? I figured you thought I was talking too much. No, he searched for a reason that wasn't the truth. Needed you elsewhere. You're very committed to this fake marriage. He stared straight ahead. Apparently. By evening, a betting pool had quietly formed among the security team. How long, one guard grinned, before the boss admits he's jealous. 24 hours. 12. The pie thing nearly killed him. An older guard, 15 years on the job, laid a folded bill on the table without a word. "Tonight?" someone asked. "He won't confess it tonight," the old guard said. "He'll just figure it out." Dinner made things worse. Hazel sat between Gabriel's grandfather and two younger cousins, having the whole table in stitches over baking disasters within minutes. "My dear," Grandfather Enzo said, wiping his eyes, "you should have married into this family years ago." The table went quiet for a heartbeat. "I think your grandson would have had something to say about that," Hazel laughed. "I'm no longer sure," Enzo said, glancing at Gabriel. Gabriel reached for his wine, expression carefully blank, except for the faint tightening in his jaw. Across the table, Bianca noticed. For the first time all weekend, she wasn't watching Hazel. She was watching Gabriel. He wasn't pretending anymore. A slow smile spread across her face. If he's actually fallen for her, exposing this will hurt so much more. She excused herself early. Tomorrow, she'd end it. Sunday night. The final banquet filled the ballroom with chandelier light and a string quartet. Long tables overflowed with flowers and silver. It was the last event before the family scattered back to their own corners of the business, and the moment Gabriel had been dreading all weekend. Not because of the speeches. Because something had actually changed. The plan had been simple: survive the weekend, pay her, go back to normal. Now the thought of Monday morning, of her walking away, felt unbearable. Hazel stood near a window, smoothing her dress, while relative after relative stopped to thank her. "We haven't laughed like this together in years," one aunt said, squeezing her hands. "Come back and visit," a cousin added. "I'd like that," Hazel said, before remembering she couldn't. By tomorrow she'd be gone from all their lives. Across the room, Bianca had spent the afternoon in Gabriel's office. She'd found exactly what she was looking for: a copy of the contract. Every signature. Every clause. Every payment. Proof. Dinner went smoothly: toasts, old stories, Enzo joking that Hazel had ruined every dessert in the city for him permanently. Even Gabriel was smiling freely now. That was exactly what Bianca had been waiting for. When Sophia finished thanking the family for the weekend, Bianca rose from her seat. "I have something to say." The room quieted. She walked to the center holding the folder. "I think this family deserves the truth." She laid the documents on the table. "I kept wondering why Hazel always looked a little uneasy whenever someone asked about the marriage. Now I know." Gasps rippled through the room. A few capos edged closer to Gabriel. Bianca lifted the first page. This woman was hired. She isn't Gabriel's wife. She's an actress. Everything this weekend has been a performance. The folder hit the table with a crack. Silence, then a wave of confused whispers. Hazel rose slowly, hands shaking. She could have lied again. Gabriel could have shut the whole room down with a word. Instead, she looked at Sophia, at Arturo, at every face that had welcomed her without asking a single question. They deserved better than another lie. "It's true," she said. The room went dead silent. "When Mr. Santoro's attorney came to my bakery, I agreed to pretend. My shop was about to close. I was desperate." Her voice caught. The contract was real. So was the money. A painful stretch of quiet followed. Her eyes filled. "But none of your kindness was fake," she said, looking at Gabriel now. "You took in a total stranger and treated her like family before she'd earned it. I'm sorry. I never wanted to embarrass you." She slid the ring off her finger and set it gently on the table. "Thank you," she whispered, voice breaking, "for letting me borrow what a real family feels like." She turned toward the doors. Every step felt heavier than the last. Gabriel never looked at Bianca. Never looked at the contract. He was watching Hazel, the woman who'd remembered a groundskeeper's overlooked birthday, worried about whether guards had eaten, insisted every dress needed pockets, and walked straight through every wall he'd spent his whole life building. She reached the doors. Gabriel stood. The room went silent again. He crossed to the table and picked up the contract. Looked at it a long moment. Then tore it clean in half. Again. And again. Paper drifted down like snow. Bianca's smile disappeared. I told everyone the truth. You did, Gabriel said, letting the pieces fall. Then he turned to face Hazel. She stopped being my fake wife, he said, voice quiet but steady, the moment she made this whole family feel like one. Hazel turned around slowly, not sure she'd heard him right. He crossed the room to her. I offered you one weekend. A small, unfamiliar smile. It wasn't enough. She couldn't speak. Couldn't move. I spent years thinking loyalty could only be bought with fear, he said. You proved me wrong. You earned it with kindness. He took her hands. I don't want you to leave because a contract ran out. I want you to stay because I'm asking you to. His voice dropped. What I'd really like, is the rest of our lives. For a long moment Hazel just stared at him. Then the tears came, and a shaky laugh with them. So, she sniffled, does this mean I finally get to stop memorizing your cousins' names? Nobody moved. Then grandfather Enzo burst out laughing. Sophia dabbed at her eyes, laughing too. The cousins followed, then the staff, then the bodyguards, then, even a few stone-faced capos lost the fight against smiling. Gabriel laughed too. Loud, real, a sound nobody in that room had ever heard out of him. He slid the ring back onto her finger. This time, he murmured, for real. She wrapped both arms around him, not because anyone was watching this time, but because she didn't want to let go. 6 months later. Montgomery's bakery no longer struggled to keep the lights on. Fresh bread filled the case before sunrise. Lines curled around the block some mornings. A small framed certificate by the register read, official dessert partner of the Santoro Family Charity Foundation. Hazel insisted nothing important had really changed. She still woke before dawn. Still mixed the dough herself. Still remembered every regular's order. The only difference was the tall man now hauling 50-pound sacks of flour into the kitchen before anyone else arrived. Gabriel, she called one Sunday, we have employees for that. I know. They can carry the flour. They can. Then why are you doing it? He shrugged, completely serious. Just helping. The staff traded amused looks. Everyone knew the truth, the most feared man in the city got up before sunrise every week for the simple reason that it meant spending the morning next to his wife. Later that afternoon, the Santoro family gathered again, and no one questioned anymore whether Hazel belonged. She moved through the kitchen beside Sophia, laughing while showing the younger cousins how to decorate cookies. Arturo proudly showed off the roses she'd helped him plant behind the shop. The bodyguards fought over the last cinnamon roll like it was a matter of family honor. Watching from the doorway, Sophia smiled to herself. I asked my grandson to bring home a wife. She glanced at Gabriel, who was failing badly at sneaking cookie dough out of the mixing bowl. Hazel tapped his hand with a wooden spoon instead of scolding him, and he grinned like a kid caught in the act. Instead, Sophia said quietly, he brought home the heart of this whole family. That evening, after Hazel locked up the shop and flipped off the lights, the smell of vanilla and fresh bread still hung in the air. Gabriel reached for her flour-dusted hand. No contract this time. No audience. No performance. She laced her fingers through his without a second thought, and together they walked out into the evening, leaving behind the warm little bakery that had quietly rewritten both of their lives. The strongest families, like the strongest hearts, were never built on fear. They were built on kindness that showed up first, and love that stayed.